Hi everyone, this is Abdullah and I'm a community librarian at Markham Public Library. Today I'm going to be showing you a really cool STEAM activity using a bunch of objects that you should hopefully have at home. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a couple of little alternatives as well as I'm going along. Now this is a pretty long activity and it can be pretty frustrating as well. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be building something called a mobile. And a mobile is really all about balance. And in our case, it's going to take a lot of trial and error. Now you could actually make it a lot easier for yourself by using a mini scale. But we're not going to be using a mini scale in this case. We're just really going to be playing with things around in our hands. Now again, because this is a pretty long activity, what I would say is feel free to pause this at any point and then just to sort of pick up and continue, because you're going to be fumbling around a lot. I'm going to be fumbling around a lot. So it might be a bit of a frustrating experience, but also, it's also very, very rewarding. And the reason why the camera is angled like this is after a fair amount of testing, I found that this was actually the best angle because it can best sort of demonstrate what it is that I'm actually trying to show and what I'm trying to build, as well as what's on my desk as well, so you can see me working away, right? So with that, let's actually go right ahead and get into it. So first you're going to need some string. So string is pretty important. I have quite a bit of it over here. You're going to need a little bit of tape as well. You could technically make do without tape, but I highly recommend it. It makes your life so much easier. Okay, so tape. You're going to need a couple of straws. The more straws you have, the more complex the overall project is going to be, and probably the more frustrating it's going to be as well. So, just be mindful of the number of straws that you're using. And then you're going to need some construction paper as well. So I have a couple sheets over here. I have a lot more to the side of me. You're going to need a pencil as well, just to sketch out the shapes that you're going to be cutting. You're going to need a little hole puncher. You don't have to have a hole puncher, but I find that it really helps because we're going to be pulling our strings through the little holes of the shapes, and then we're going to be tying them together, and then we're going to need some scissors to actually cut the shapes. All right, so with that, let's actually go right ahead and get started. So you can see right here that I had initially drawn two triangles, and that's the shape that I'm going to go with again. Okay, so let's do two triangles again and make them different sizes, okay? Because if you make them different sizes, first of all, I think your mobile is going to look a little bit nicer, and also it's going to be a little bit more challenging for you as well as you make your mobile. But ultimately your mobile is going to look nicer, right? And of course, if you're putting so much hard work into this, it's nice if the end product looks nice. Okay, so let's go and cut this other triangle as well. It doesn't have to be neat and nice. It can be very messy. As you can see, I sketched these out pretty fast, and those are where my two triangles go. Now, if you're a little too young to use scissors, consider asking your parents to help you with the cutting, or a sibling if you have an older sibling, or use some safety scissors, okay? So there we go. Now let's actually cut out two squares as well. All right. Go. I know that the lighting makes it a little bit challenging to see, and also, I mean, it's brown. Brown is a pretty dark color, so that makes it extra challenging to see. Okay. Now I did actually get started with this in advance just because it does take quite a bit of time. So again, if you feel like you need to pause it at any point, and a few of these steps are actually pretty repetitive as well, so feel free again to pause it, or these videos should be made available on all of our social media pages as well. So if you need to rewatch it afterwards, or you want to share it with a friend, etc., then you're more than welcome to do that as well. Okay? So again, there we go. That is our square. And then our last shape. Again, you can cut as many or as little shapes as you want. Personally, I recommend starting small and then progressively cutting out more shapes, because trust me, when I say that this is frustrating, it's very frustrating, and that's actually why I'm a little bit prepared with some of this to the side in advance. Okay, so there we go. So this is our start. Again, I'm not the best artist, but you know what, I'm trying. So again, it's nice to have a bit of a size difference. So let's go and cut this there. Okay. Again, this is going to be our last shape, our last shapes that we're cutting. And then we're going to be using our little hole punch just to make a little hole in them. So then we can actually take advantage of putting the strings through it. So it's a little hard for me to cut and talk at the same time because I am not a great artist and I feel like I need to concentrate on either one or the other. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And there is our star. I know it doesn't look great, but you know what? A star is a star. Again, you don't need to be an artist. But if you want to make things look a lot nicer, feel free to pause the video. Feel free to use rulers, whatever you want, if you really want to make your shapes look amazing. But I do think it helps to experiment a little bit first, just so that you actually know how the mobile is going to look and to see how much work and effort you want to put into it. Okay? So this exercise is really all about balance. Okay, so if you have two shapes that are not exactly the same size, which in our case we definitely have, because I didn't actually weigh any of these, right? So again, if you have shapes that are different sizes, you're really going to have to play around with where the center of the string is going to be attached in order for both sides to be perfectly balanced. So that's really the challenge, and that's what really takes up a lot of time. All right, fantastic. So we have all of our little shapes over here, and we have our straws here as well. And where did I put that? Oh, there's the string. Okay, sorry. Because I keep forgetting what I put off to the side. Anyways, let's go and use our little hole puncher. Okay, puncture the first hole into our little star. Then let's go and puncture a hole into the triangle. Puncture another hole into star number 2. That is a nice big star, so that's going to be a little bit more challenging for us to balance. Into the square. Square number 2. And triangle number 2. All right, beautiful. All right, so there is that. Let me actually just go and remove that a little bit. Okay, so again, these are all of our shapes here, just making sure that all of you can see them. So all 6 of our shapes. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab a straw, right? And then you're going to want to try and attach the string to the center. Now you'll know you found the center because once you do, the shape should be nice and balanced. Or sorry, the straw should be nice and balanced, okay? So again, let's go and tie that string around. This is honestly the part that I dislike the most. I don't mind the balancing so much, I feel like my fingers are just not nimble enough to to tie these the way that I want to tie them, right? So let's go and do that. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just going to make a second little loop. And again, as I said before, you don't need tape, but I highly recommend it because if you found it balanced and then, I don't know, let's say like wind moves it a little bit or just happens to inch up a little bit by itself, you might get frustrated. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look. And you can see that it's not balanced, right? It's pointing downwards. So let's move that string a little bit towards what I think is the closer to the center. There we go. How is that? Still not exactly balanced, but it's a little better. Again, just play around with it a little bit. And there we go. All right, look at that. Look how nicely balanced that is. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but the closer it is, the better it is. Okay, so there we go. I found my midpoint. I'm very, very happy with it. I'm gonna go and grab some tape and we should be good to go. I have to say, this is actually probably the fastest that I found the midpoint. I just need to find the end of the tape. There we go. Okay. So again, if you feel like I'm going a little bit too fast, please feel free to pause the video and then continue once you're all caught up. All right, so there we go. Again, just a tiny little bit of tape. Try to get that tape as close to the center as you can, and then make sure that it's still balanced once you've put the tape on, right? So there we go. Come on. Okay, see, I might need to move it just a little bit. There we go. Come on, and yes, perfect. It's still it's still balancing. And use a tiny little bit of tape, because again, these are such small objects that we're working with that a teensy little bit of tape can throw off the balance. All right, so there we go. All right, this is nice and balanced. And then we're gonna go and attach two shapes to the side. So again, I like to sort of mix and match because I think it looks a little bit nicer. So we're gonna start off with the small triangle. Actually, no, here. Let's start off with the small square and the big triangle. That's the first pairing that I am going to do. So again, let's go and grab some string. Don't make this one too long, okay? Because if you make it long, then the length of your mobile is going to be huge as well, right? And we don't want that. It's actually probably better that it's a little bit smaller. So again, don't make it too long, but make sure that it's long enough that you can attach things properly. And as I said that, my string fell onto the floor. Here, let's go and put that over there. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this small little square. All right. Now, if you're pairing up a large object with a bigger object, the larger object is probably going to be closer to the center, okay, the center of the straw, and then the smaller object is probably going to be closer to one of the ends, because if the large object is towards one of the ends, it's really going to throw it off balance, because the larger object is heavier, right? So then the straw is going to be tilting that way. But if you bring the larger object closer to the middle, it's not going to tilt the straw too much. And then if the smaller object is closer towards one of the ends, that's okay because it's small, right? So it's not going to exert as much force on one of the sides. All right, so let's go and bring this string through that. There we go. So that is my first little loop, and then I'm going to go and do loop number 2 as well. All right. Again, you don't necessarily need to have construction paper. You could honestly use regular sheets of paper as well, but I like to have a little bit of color, right? It looks nicer, and that's what I'm going for. Okay. Let's go and slip that through there. I'm slipping it through the long end, so there we go. All right, beautiful. So that's done, and I'm gonna go and attach this off to one of the sides. Again, I like to do 2 little loops because one loop just doesn't feel like it's enough. It doesn't feel stable enough for me. Okay. Again, don't use the tape just yet because we don't know where this shape is perfectly balanced just yet. All right. So let's go and tie this little end as well. Beautiful. And here, just to show you that it's now off balance, if we pick this up, you can see that it's tilting completely towards the little square, right? So again, not great for us. But again, it's part of the work that we put in. And now the larger object that we're going to use, so in this case, the triangle that I'm going to be using is going to have to be a little closer to the center. I can already tell you that off the bat, but I don't know how close to the center it's going to be. That's where it's going to take a little bit of playing around with us so that we can actually try and find that sweet spot, that sweet zone, the middle zone. Okay, there we go. Drawing a little bit of that string in there, and then we're just going to want to tie it twice. There we go. So that's our first knot, and then let's go and tie it in again. Here, sorry, I'm not sure how well all of you at home can see. I actually find that it's a lot easier to slip in the longer end through the loop, and then once you draw it, just because it's so hard to get in a small little piece of string in, right? So that, again, let's bring in that big, oops. Oh, it's getting all tangled up. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so that is loop number 2, because it's hard to slip in a small little end through the loops. Here. All right, so now we're gonna want to we're gonna want to attach this through the to the straw. So again, it's gonna be loop number 1. Beautiful. And then let's go with loop number 2. This is, so if you felt that just balancing the straw by itself was hard, this is, I think, quite a bit harder, because you have to balance sort of both of the shapes, right? There we go. Beautiful. And let's see how unbalanced that is. Whoops. Sorry, just drop that. Let's take a look. Okay, yeah, so you can see the end with the triangle is really pulling it in on its end, but it's actually not too bad because I put the triangle quite a bit more closer to the center than I did that little square. Okay, so let's move that up a bit and see how it is. Okay, so the triangle is still pulling the mobile closer to it, and there we go. Okay, actually that was nice and easy. Here again, I'm going a little bit far just to show you that it's nice and balanced. Oops, and I dropped it, but that's okay because it should be nice and balanced, and hopefully nothing fell off. And nothing fell off. Amazing. Okay, I am so happy right now. There we go. All right, so this is our first end of the mobile. Again, if you have tape, please tape it right now. All right, that's the only advice that I can give you. If you don't listen to me, that's perfectly fine. But I like for the mobile to sort of stay where I've put it, because if it sort of moves around as you're playing around with it, that's it's just not going to be fun, right? Because you spend all that time and effort trying to find exactly where the sweet spots are, and then if you lose it, well, you're going to be a little frustrated. All right, so let's go and cut out again. Tiny little piece of tape, right? Honestly, the amount of tape that I'm using is probably too much, but as I said before, I'm not very artsy. I prefer to be careful if I can be. All right, let's see, and see how the tape is throwing off the balance a little bit? Here, let me see. Gotta make sure that that's good. And here, sorry, I feel like it's partly also because of how I slipped the string. There we go, come on. There we go. Okay, it's nice and balanced again. I just had to play around with the string a little bit. So just make sure that the string is coming out as intended. There we go. So that is our first end. All right, and then for building the mobile, again, it gets more and more challenging and more complex, is in between the two midpoints. Okay, so like somewhere, so, okay, sorry, here. Okay, let's bring this nice and close to the camera. So we have this little end and string attached here, and we had our main little, I guess, pulley, you could call it, and then we had our second string attached over here as well. So somewhere in between where we have this string and our middle string is where you're going to want to put in another piece of string. And then somewhere in between this string right here where my finger is sort of blocking the way. So somewhere right over here, and between over here is we're going to attach another string with another straw, and then that other straw can have two little pieces attached to it as well. Okay, so let's actually go right ahead and do that. So I did actually, again, as I said, I have been doing this a little bit by myself. So I did do that. So here we go. So we have another little perfectly balanced mobile over here. Okay, so we have our two little mobiles here, and then I'm actually going to go right ahead and attach it to this. And essentially this is all you have to keep doing. Okay, so you keep doing this over and over again, and you can make the object as complex or as simple as you want it to be. Okay, and mobiles are comprised of quite a few of these. And again, if you want to get a little bit more creative, it doesn't necessarily have to be shapes. It can be things like animals, or what else? It can be animals, it can be, I don't know, electronics, and it can be your favorite Pokemon. It can be anything that you want it to be, whatever it is that you really like. Okay, there we go. I just want to make sure that, sorry, with this much string, I feel like things are bound to get tangled up a little bit. And again, that's why I like using tape. Of course, now that I've attached this over here, it's going to be really unbalanced, and that's why I need to put a little mobile, so to speak, on both sides, right? So I'd have to put this on to the other side as well, because so far this is on just one side. And again, you just do this over and over and over again. So let me actually go and continue just a little bit more. So it all looks all jumbled up over here, but as long as I'm grabbing the right string, it should hopefully unravel quite nicely. Okay, so here, let's grab ourselves another straw. And then again, we're gonna try and find that sweet center spot. Yeah, this activity will probably take most beginners quite a bit of time. Quite a bit of time. And again, maybe quite a bit of frustration as well. But also quite a lot of joy, I think. Personally, I found this to be very, very satisfying when everything was perfectly balanced and I had that nice little mobile, right? So yeah, we have ourselves our string. We're going to go right ahead and attach that to this green straw that we have over here. Okay. And then onto this straw, we're going to attach to other shapes, etc., right? So it's just sort of an ever-building process where we continue to build on what we have, and we make our structure larger and larger and larger, and hopefully more beautiful. Again, it's a lot of work, but this is something that you crafted yourself, so you should be proud of yourselves if you've managed to make it this far, honestly, because it's, as I said before, this is probably one of the more frustrating activities that you could possibly do, but also really, 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 really satisfying, I think. Every single time I manage to balance one of these straws, I can't help but feel a little bit of joy. It's as though I have accomplished something, right? And I mean, you have, in a way. All right, anyways, let's go and find that midpoint, ever elusive midpoint. Perfect, look at that. Nice and balanced, right? Well, it's moving around a little bit. Let's just give it a second to stabilize. It could be a little bit more balanced, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. As long as it's not too heavily tilting towards one end or the other, I think you should be perfectly good to go. Now, what's the next step that you do? Again, you just mix and match some more shapes. Again, this time if you want the shapes to be relatively similar in size, although I will say that this star is much bigger than this square, you can do that as well. Or you can match a really small one with a really big one. In this case, I'm actually going to match two somewhat similarly shaped items. Or, sorry, not similarly shaped because they're very different shapes. Two somewhat similarly sized items because they're somewhat close in size. Although I will say that the star is quite a bit bigger. I can tell you off the top of I can tell you that just by looking at it actually, because I did cut this and it actually even feels bigger. It could also be because I think the yellow piece of construction paper that I'm using is a little heavier than the brown sheet of construction paper that I'm using. And again, if you are using sheets of paper or other objects that are differently shaped or different sized, that's perfectly fine, honestly, because this will still work unless you have something that's very, very heavy. If you have like a brick, for example, first of all, the string is not going to hold on to that very well, but you can't balance a brick with a feather all that well. I don't think that would fly, right? So again, unless one object is really, really heavy and the other object is nearly negligible in size, then I think you should be pretty fine, right? So again, so there we go. So we have our first little star. I'm gonna go right ahead and attach that to our straw. Okay. So there we go. That's our first little loop. And then I'm going to do a second little loop, and then we're going to attach that to our big piece that we had built earlier. Okay. Again, if you feel like I'm going a little too fast, you're more than welcome to pause at any point, or just to rewatch this again later if there's things that you missed, or if there's places that I might have been going a little too fast. But hopefully I'm not going too fast, because I feel like, again, this is a pretty slow project to build. All right, so there we go. So as you can see, very, very unbalanced because there's nothing countering that weight, right? So all that weight is on one side of the straw. So let's actually go and make that a lot more balanced by adding our little square. Yeah, I like using my hands as opposed to the scissor because I try to be as efficient as I can, which again, as you can tell, is probably why my shapes are not beautiful. I'm sure that all of your shapes at home look a lot nicer than mine. And if they don't, that's okay. That's okay. Again, practice makes perfect. You know, just make sure that your mobile is nice and balanced. Again, baby steps. And it's going to look progressively better and better with more practice. Okay. There we go. Alright, so there's our square. It's been attached to a piece of string. And now I'm just going to hold up this just to make sure I know which end to attach it to. All right, and then we're gonna have to play the little balancing act to make sure that this is perfectly balanced. Now again, because I said earlier, because my star feels like it's a lot heavier than the square, chances are that the square is going to be closer off to one of the ends of the straw, and then the star is going to be closer off, or closer to the middle, because it's going to be a lot heavier, right? Okay, so there we go. Oops, sorry, it's just loop number one. Definitely have to make a second loop, because otherwise it just unravels itself, and we don't want that. After all the hard work we're putting in, we definitely don't want that. All right, beautiful. Let's see. And yeah, it's definitely heavier on the star side. Okay, so we're gonna have to move the star a bit closer to the middle, like I said, and hopefully it's more balanced now. Let's see. Okay, now we actually see that the sorry, the square side is a little heavier. There we go. Beautiful, perfectly balanced. Look at that. Again, you just have to play around with it a little bit, and you just have to be patient. Again, if there's anything that you should take away from this, is as soon as you found the perfect place where it balances, unless you're a lot riskier than I am, grab the tape and immediately tape the little ends so it doesn't move around. Okay? Because again, this is a very finicky little structure. There we go. Let us go and attach that. Okay. All right. That is taped nicely over there. And then we're going to go and tape in the other end. And then we're going to combine that onto our main structure. And then we're going to have to play the little balancing act all over again, right? So it's just a really iterative sort of process, right? You just have to repeat things over and over again. And there we go. Again, just got to make sure that it's balanced. Did our tape ruin anything? It didn't. Look at that. Beautiful. All right, so now we're going to grab our main little structure. So again, we started off with the white straw. That's partly why I'm using different colored straws as well, is because it helps me remember what's where. And again, I think it looks a little bit prettier. Okay, let's bring that up there. Okay, so we have a little bit of tangling going on over here, so you probably want to untangle those shapes. Let me see, because otherwise that's going to make it a lot harder for you to balance anything. Okay, there we go. And come on, just gotta untangle this square and triangle. There we go. All right. Okay, so we have those balanced right there, and now we're gonna go and attach our counterbalance on the other side. Right. Let me just grab that. Okay. And then we're gonna go and attach this onto this end. The straw, again, it doesn't really matter if the strings on both ends are the exact same size or not. That's perfectly fine. They don't have to be. And again, you probably want to make it a little bit shorter than I did, because I feel like mine are too long, and I almost feel like I might have to stand up. I will actually have to stand up if I have to, just to show you the balanced mobile. If it's balanced. I highly doubt it's going to be balanced on our first try. I'm probably going to have to play a little bit with this. All right, so let's take a look at this. And okay. No, it's definitely not balanced, as you can see, right? So again, we're just gonna have to play around with it a little bit. I'm just trying to see which. Okay, so it's definitely a lot heavier on the green straw side. So I'm actually gonna have to bring this a little bit closer to the middle. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. That was actually really nice and easy. Again, I don't know how well you can see because I'm really far back, but I promise you this is pretty balanced. It's pretty balanced. It could be a little bit more balanced, but yeah. So look at that. Again, just keep doing it over and over again, and then you're almost definitely gonna have to attach this to the ceiling so that you can actually admire how big the overall project is. Amazing. All right, look at that. So I think we're gonna leave it at that because I feel like we've already gone for quite a bit of time, and I really hope you enjoyed this. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And if you enjoyed this video, or if you have any questions or you'd like to suggest any new projects, please feel free to leave a comment below. Please also help us and help other people benefit from this video as well by sharing them on our various social media channels or on your social media channels. Next week, we will definitely be doing some more STEAM activities from home as well. And please don't forget to check out your digital library by visiting our website at www.markhampubliclibrary.ca. Again, if you really like this project, or if you actually were following along and you were building a mobile as I was doing it, please feel free to show us your creations by sharing them via social media at #MPLFromHome, or by tweeting us, for example, at Markham Library. And we would love to just see what it is that you've made from home as well. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope we see you next time. Take care. Bye.